Well, despite only scoring one total run in the final two games of the series, the Tigers still take two of three from Kansas City in Kansas City. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. The Detroit Tigers take two of three in a series win over the Kansas City Royals this weekend in Kansas City. Always good to say those words. You know, Kansas City is one of those teams where growing up, it didn't really seem to matter how good the Tigers were or how bad the Royals were or vice versa. They were just always kind of a thorn in the Tigers' side. So I will always appreciate a series win in Kansas City. They win Friday 7-5, lose Saturday 1-0, and then win Sunday 1-0. So a strange weekend where the Tigers only score one total run in the final two games and yet walk away with a series victory. Probably can't say that too terribly often either, but we will take it. The Tigers are now 39-21 on the season. My first thought is they don't ask how, okay? They don't ask how, they ask how many. And right now, the Tigers have more wins than any team in the game of baseball. Man, they're 5-1 in their last six games, the Tigers. Solid pitching really all weekend. We'll talk about Mize. I think he kind of struggled, but outside of that, you know, they have really solid pitching the entire weekend, and that is obviously the strength of this team is the pitching and the pitching depth in the organization, something we've talked about a lot dating back to last season and this past offseason, et cetera. The offense obviously wasn't great, but Kansas City also is a really good pitching staff. They've actually given up fewer runs than the Detroit Tigers this season. They've allowed fewer. So it's a good pitching staff. It's a good rotation. It's a solid bullpen with really good arms at the back end. And you can either view this as a downside that the team only scored one total run in the last 18 innings of the series, and it was on a wild pitch / passed ball, whatever. Or you can view it as, I'm not going to say a positive, but you can view it in the sense that they scored one run in two games and split. And again, for like the fifth time already in the first 3 minutes, still won the series. I think it's impressive. And I think that it is obviously one total run isn't impressive, but it's impressive to get a victory still and to still get a series win despite that. I think that says a lot about the team and kind of where they're at. Like they just want to win. And the offense as a whole this season has been way better than we expected. And not every team in baseball is the Royals pitching staff. It'll be okay. And the fact that something that I've said for years on this show is that good teams find a way to still win games when they don't play their best. Okay. And I think that over the course of the season, that is really one of the, because it's such a long season, right? That really is one of the biggest differentiators between the really good teams and the middle of the road teams. Is, you know what? Not everything has to be going our way, and we can still win. You can play a below average game and still win. Now, obviously, you don't want to make that a habit. You want to play your best as often as possible. But the fact that from, again, it's 162 games. You're going to have off days. And the fact that the Tigers are in a position now where they're playing such good ball that even on not their best days, we're still like walking away with a win. I used to pray for times like this, okay? There was There was a time not too long ago where the Tigers had to play perfect baseball, like literally perfect, to win 2-1. So I understand some of the frustration with the offense, but I really do appreciate this weekend. Doesn't mean I want everything to look like this. It doesn't mean that there's not still plenty I'm going to call out and scrutinize and talk about ways to improve here when we get to what went wrong. But I'm always going to appreciate the series that kind of look like this, and you can still walk away with it by taking 2 of 3. So what went right? I want to start off with Colt Keith, actually. I know like Tarik Skubal is going to be the headliner. We'll talk about him a little bit later. He had a hit in every single ball game and 2 on Saturday, despite the shutout. I think we have gotten to the point this season with Colt Keith where the hits are here, the contact is here, and I'm even confident to say that is here to stay. What I need to see now is the power come along. He is getting a lot of hits lately. If you look at his like OPS plus or WRC plus, whatever you want to use, in the month of May, he's well above a league average hitter. All of these are great things, and it's a great turnaround from what we saw in April. Now that I'm like confident that that's here and kind of permanent, now it's time to start looking ahead to what can he do to take another step forward. And I think that power, he's got a slug of around 380 this year and had a slug around 380 last year. Now, in the minor leagues with Colt Keith, it was kind of this way, shortened much more as far as like amount of games and time. But like he would get called up to a level, he would struggle, then he would hit a lot of singles, and then the power would come around. And so I'm hoping that this is just because Major League pitching is so good, kind of the like long version of that here. And like, okay, last year had his ups and downs. This year started off slow. He's kind of turned it around where he's now putting the ball in play a lot. Now it's about driving the baseball to all fields, because that is what he was able to do in the minor leagues at a borderline, if not just straight up elite clip. So that's kind of what I'm looking for going forward. But I am really glad that he is now to the point where like we've put that April behind him, and now we kind of go, when he goes up to the batter's box, I think we all kind of expect a pretty solid competitive at bat, and well, I don't want to say expect to get a hit, but like again, this weekend had a hit in every game and had one multi-hit game as well. Riley Green hit an absolute tank on Friday. Had a nice double on Sunday. Nobody really outside of Colt Keith did too well on Saturday, as we all know. But the thing with Riley is, I mean, really nothing new. I don't have anything new to add to this fire. It's just about consistency, right? It is wild to me to watch him, and just on a day-to-day basis, he can look so different from one day to the next, and that is so odd to me. He had like one of the highest RBI totals in all of baseball in the month of May, the highest RBI total in his entire career for a single month in the month of May. Like he drove in a lot of runs. We saw the power. He got out of that slump. Like great, all awesome stuff. It's just that the days when he doesn't do well, he just, it's like 0 for 4 with 4 Ks. So it's all about just consistent at bats every single time he goes up to the batter's box. Spencer Torkelson also with an absolute bomb this weekend, and I'm so impressed with his at bats. He had a couple at bats on Friday that I thought were absolutely stellar. Like full counts worked, and then drove the baseball. Full counts worked, fouled it off, and then draw a walk type of stuff. He was really shining, I think, this weekend, even if on Saturday and Sunday the final box score maybe didn't look as good as it did on Friday. Really impressed with his at-bats still. Want to talk about Dylan Dingler, then we'll get into the pitching. Okay, we'll do that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, well, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, as you all know, I love the no-shell variety. It is the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk or on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, well, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Chicago White Sox. We'll preview that series here at the end of the episode. Talking about this series win against the Royals this weekend, though, Dylan Dingler had an absolutely fantastic weekend. Friday, he goes 3 for 3. Saturday, again, nobody really hit well, but he did draw a walk. He also had a caught stealing this weekend. Really solid defense. A couple of really good blocks behind the plate. I thought called pretty solid games. Just a fantastic weekend. And, Jake Rogers has really handled this really well. He has said everything correctly and done everything correctly. And Jake Rogers had an absolute seed of a caught stealing on Sunday and is so good defensively. I know his offense has been brutal, but he still has value, and that's kind of exactly what you want out of a backup catcher these days, or like a 1B catcher, right? Is like, just give me really good defense and run into a couple of homers. There is still a lot of value in him, but like Dylan Dingler is the ceiling for him is to genuinely be one of the better catchers in the American League. I truly believe that. And so far this year, the Tigers PR department put out at the beginning of the weekend, so I don't know if that lasted throughout the weekend, that Dylan Dingler now leads position players on the Tigers in WAR. Like he has been the most valuable non-pitcher. Obviously, I'm assuming Skubal is at the top of that list on the Tigers so far this year, and it already almost has 2 wins according to Fangraph WAR. Fantastic stuff, man. He is on pace to have such a good season and already has had such a brilliant first 2 months of the season here. Let's talk about the pitching. Tarik Skubal, the big story of the weekend, goes 7 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts, 2.26 ERA now, and has 16 consecutive scoreless innings. Absolutely dominant. The most fun part of this outing for me was the knuckle curve that he just kind of like dropped in there to Salvador Perez. That's a righty-lefty knuckle curve in the zone on a 2-strike count, like all of which kind of leaves you to believe like, I don't really know if this is the best idea. And he did it and got a called 3rd strike. And, that pitch for him is so funny to me because you don't ever want to throw it as often as possible without a hitter ever sitting on it. You have to find that balance. What is that, like 2% of the time, maybe? Like, you have to throw it just little enough. Because if you throw it too much, then every hitter is going to go up there and go, okay, like in certain count, like, 2-strike count, whatever. Like, I got to watch out for this knuckle curve thing. You want to throw it just enough where it is one of your pitches that can be effective, but not a single hitter ever goes into the batter's box in any situation expecting it. And so I think that was kind of a really cool part of the weekend. The changeup, the changeup was fantastic as it always is. That's not news, but I appreciate how he throws the changeup to lefties, because a lot of left-handed pitchers really like doing the slider low and away, fastball up and in type of thing, right? And like that's pretty fundamental and basic, left on left approach there, and because it works a lot of times. And because Skubal doesn't have a slider that he loves in his arsenal right now, he is kind of using the changeup in that regard. Well, sometimes you'll see lefties throw changeups low and in because they're like, oh, look, it's the fastball, and then the bottom falls out of it. he has such a good changeup that he can throw it low and away to lefties, and it can have the same kind of effect that slider does. It's absolutely brilliant. Now the big story from this outing, which is kind of too bad that he had such a good outing and no one's even talking about how great he was actually doing on the mound, was the decision to pull him through 7 innings on 90 pitches. I will tell you what, I do not hate it at all. And on top of that, I don't understand how it got the amount of legs it did for like being as big of a story as it ended up being. I understand that people want to see pitchers go deep into ball games. I want to see pitchers go deep into ball games. I understand that they pulled Tarik Skubal and then Bo Brisky gave up a run and they lost. Okay. If they leave Skubal out there, probably doesn't give up a run. He's gone 16 innings without doing so. So I think that's fair to say probably. Not a guarantee, obviously. But they lost the baseball game on Saturday because they got shut out and got no hit through 6 innings. Like I am blown away by the response and like the debate and discourse online in regards to that. Tarik Skubal was laughing in the dugout after he got pulled. He was asked about it after the game and said he didn't care at all, and I believe him. He still threw 7 innings. It's not like he threw 5 and he got pulled. Like he still threw 7. He was totally fine with the decision. Oh, and by the way, again, the offense almost got no hit. That is why they lost. Look up the record of baseball teams in history when they only give up 1 run as a team in 9 innings. It's very high. So like I don't know, man. I understand that again, like that run maybe doesn't score. I have zero confidence that the offense was ever going to score. The offense still got to hit in the 9th. And they didn't hit in the 9th. So I don't know. I really don't. I think you were. And AJ's reasoning was like, oh, we got to save bullets for later in the season. We want him to be fully ready to go, in that second half push and whatnot. And I get that, but to me, I don't really care. Like this was way more about the offense than it was that managerial decision. I am not passionate about this really one way or the other. Okay. Again, non-story to me, but I know a lot of people in the fan base talked about it, so I wanted to bring it up. The bullpen this weekend was really solid. Chase Lee, man. Chase Lee is so good. He gets every righty out. He's got an ERA of like 1.15 on the season now. It's to the point I said this last week. I'll say it again. When this pitching staff is fully healthy, I don't want Chase Lee to get sent down. I do not want him to be a casualty of those roster restrictions. Like I want Chase Lee to be here. I think he's a weapon, and I really hope that he is on this team the rest of the summer. Sunday pitching was fantastic. Obviously, the Tigers get a shutout in that one. Cater Montero, really not a great outing. Was pretty inefficient. Gave up a lot of hits, but just was able to consistently tightrope his way out of danger. Really, the entire outing. So we'll take it. But his command is just so all over the place still. Who else pitched this weekend? Brant Herter, really solid on Friday. Hannafy, solid again. Tommy Kahnle and Will Vest back-to-back have been really solid all weekend, obviously. Or all season, rather, obviously. So they continue to shine this weekend as well. What went wrong? Not a super long list, but, I want to talk Bo Brisky, and then I want to talk about some specific players offensively as well. We will do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So Bo Brisky, on Friday, he pitched and had 1 shutout inning with 2 strikeouts. Like that was probably the best he's looked all year. Unfortunately, then on Saturday, he goes back out there, 1 inning, 2 hits, 1 earned run. Just has an ERA of about 4.95 ERA. I'm not saying like cut him or anything. He was so good last year, and it's the beginning of June. Like there's still time for him to turn it around and figure it out. But I think I am to the point where I'm okay if Bo Brisky isn't pitching high leverage situations anymore. At least until there is like a noticeable turnaround in his effectiveness. I think it is fair to say that Bo Brisky shouldn't be coming in like a tied or one run game late too terribly often going forward. Now, sometimes situations dictate otherwise, and like you're just going to have a day where your other high leverage pitchers have pitched the last 3 games in a row, and that's kind of your only option. And if that's the case, then so be it. But I think he has moved his way down the depth chart, if you will, despite that good outing on Friday. So we'll see what happens with him going forward. But it's just getting a little bit too predictable on the mound, I think, this year, with just really being still that fastball changeup type of guy and not really an effective slider yet. So we'll see what adjustments he has to make. The offense as a whole, obviously, on Saturday and Sunday, as I've mentioned a billion times already, 1 run. And the 1 run they scored in those 2 games was on, again, a passed ball. It wasn't even like they hit anybody in or anything. So really rough, but Waka and Bubic are good. That bullpen is good. I'm really not too upset about this, and I'm just glad that they were able to split those 2 days. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that there's not individuals that are kind of, I feel like, on the hot seat. We'll put it that way, okay? Andy Ibanez, I have avoided this conversation for a long time because I really like Andy Ibanez. I think he's kind of the epitome of like the gritty ball player that the Tigers are looking for. But this has gotten to a point where it is impossible to ignore any longer. Andy Ibanez has just been completely ineffective this season against lefties as well. He is now hitting 209 with a 610 OPS on the season. And the righty lefty splits against righties, I don't even know if that's really super fair, but against righties, he's hitting 148 with a 466 OPS, so that's unplayable. Against lefties, a 237 average and a 676 OPS. Numbers have been tailing off most of the month of May as well, trending downwards. So Ibanez brings you multiple position versatility. He brings you that effectiveness against left-handed pitching. If he's not hitting against lefties, there's not too much value in the roster spot anymore. There's not too much value in the player anymore. You know what I mean? Like Ryan Kreidler can play multiple positions too. I don't want Ryan Kreidler back in Detroit, preferably the rest of 2025. So like, I don't think that it's unfair to say, like, unless a big turnaround happens and he starts crushing lefties again, which is on the table, the dude just seemingly continues to pull it out of nowhere year after year. I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but if he doesn't do that, I think that there is a serious conversation to be had about Andy Ibanez's future on the team, because if he's not hitting lefties, his value really plummets really quickly, because that is where most of his value comes from. The other player I want to highlight in an unfortunately negative way is Trey Sweeney. I thought he had a rough defensive weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But on top of that, like, his offensive numbers just continue to plummet as well. He's approaching a 600 OPS again, going downwards, approaching a 600 OPS again. So I think that is something to keep an eye out for. Now, part of that is just like when the Tigers are at full health, and Javi can play shortstop a little bit more. Zach McKinstry obviously can play there. Then maybe that's just answers itself, and that he's really just a victim of circumstance in that regard, where like he's only playing shortstop as often as he is because of the circumstances. But something I think is worth keeping an eye out for. Outside of that, like, hot 2 or 3 week stretch he's been very ineffective pretty much the rest of the season outside of that. So something else to keep an eye on. Shortstop defense was kind of rough this weekend, and that is another reason I bring up the Trey Sweeney conversation. If Parker Meadows comes back, I want Javi back at shortstop, man. I'm kind of tired of seeing everybody else there. I really want to see Javi back at short, and I think that the team is at its best with Meadows in center and Javi at shortstop. Yeah, and that's one of the many reasons why I'm excited for Parker Meadows to return. Let's talk Casey Mize, and then we'll get to just stuff here. So Mize goes 3 1/3, 8 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 1 home run against. His ERA is now 2.82. Still kind of working his way back from injury. This was his second start since coming off the IL. Really, in this one, the command was just catastrophic. Like I can't even think of an adjective to properly describe it. It was brutal, man. Like every single pitch was over the heart of the plate, and the stuff was still good. Thus, still 4 strikeouts and just 3 1/3. But literally, it felt like everything was over the heart of the plate. So that is not what he has been this year. He has a sub-3 ERA. He's been fantastic. So I don't think that that's something that's going to be reoccurring. I'm not like worried about it or anything, but that is why he was wildly ineffective on Friday. A lot of injury updates. So Reese Olson threw a bullpen this weekend. Still did not throw the changeup, so it appears that he will not be back today as you listen to this on Monday when he is eligible. Maybe one more time through the rotation, and then he'll be back. Hopefully, really need him back in the starting rotation. Parker Meadows, Evan Petzold wrote a piece where he rumored that, not rumored, that's not the right word, where he, speculated and asked the coaching staff if there was a chance Parker Meadows could be back against the White Sox. And AJ didn't deny that. He said, we'll have conversations with Meadows. We'll talk about whether that's the case. But he feels really good. That's what the not exact quote was, but that was kind of the gist of what he said. So that gets me really excited because I love Parker Meadows more than I love myself, I think. And I really think like this team has the best record in baseball now. And that's not even with a guy that has a chance to be their most valuable all-around asset. That's just crazy to think about. So hopefully he can come back this week. I will cry tears of joy. Alex Cobb on a rehab assignment, his numbers were good. And at first you're like, okay, this is great. Then all of the beat writers collectively wrote pieces about how, even though the numbers looked good, apparently the report was not good, and that he was talking to trainers and front office and coaching after the game and said that he did not feel very good after the outing, and that he was still like in a lot of pain and working through a lot of small injuries in this outing, which at that point, considering this dude was given, which is just so embarrassing to say out loud, but like legitimately was considering retirement and then got $15 million from the Tigers to play baseball this year. I think we can't rule out the possibility that he just never plays in a Tigers uniform. Now, I'm not saying that's likely. We'll see. Maybe he just, in 10 days from now, he makes another start. He feels a lot better and then gets stretched out and returns. But like, that would be that would be a big swing and a miss by this team if this dude ended up just not playing a single game for the Detroit Tigers. So we'll keep an eye on that. Again, I'm not saying that is what's happening. I want to make that abundantly clear. I'm just saying like we can't rule out that as a possibility at this point. Dylan Smith called up to the majors, though. One of the coolest moments of my weekend. I have absolutely adored Dylan Smith since draft night coming out of Alabama. He has just been riddled with injuries in his professional career, has barely gotten a chance to showcase his ability. And this year, in order to preserve him a little bit more and maybe prevent injuries, the Tigers moved him to the bullpen, and he has been dynamic. He has been genuinely incredible. And so for him to get the call up, he didn't pitch this weekend. Hopefully that changes against the White Sox here in this series. But I am so excited for him. I'm so excited to watch him pitch. And I'm so excited to see him prove that he can be a valuable asset on a major league team despite all of the, role changes and injuries that he has dealt with over the last couple of years. I'm so excited for him and his family and whatnot. So congratulations to Dylan Smith, and hopefully we see some good pitching now. Knowing my luck, he'll give up like 12 runs and everybody will laugh at me. But I'm just really excited he got the call up. Sawyer Gibson Long, it appears, will be starting for the Detroit Tigers this weekend. That's super exciting. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Tyler Alexander DFA'd by the Brewers, so we'll see where he ends up now. Other news in the organization, Kevin McGonigal's hitting like 500 in high single A, so I think that it's probable he's going to get called up here soon. But the big story of the weekend in the minor leagues was Jose Briseño. Incredible weekend. Grand slam. What do you have, a 3 home run game? Absolutely incredible. He's a guy that 2 years ago, when like no one really knew who he was still, AJ Hinch said he had a man crush on him because he just hit the ball really hard every single time he made contact. And now everyone's kind of seeing why. Really exciting stuff. And hopefully there's a chance that McGonigal, Briseño, and Clark are all in Double-A here, like in the next week or two. And that's super, super fun to think about. Chicago White Sox this week in Chicago. Jack Flaherty against Jonathan Cannon will be game 1 on Monday. TBD against Shane Smith, game 2. Shane Smith is good and has had a good year and is somebody that you should keep an eye out for. That's not a gimme, especially in a TBD game for Detroit. Game 3, TBD against Sean Burke. And then game 4 is Casey Mize against Davis Martin. So 4-game set here. I think it kind of goes without saying you should take 3 of 4. You should expect to take 3 of 4. And if you win the first 3, then maybe even get greedy and kind of just put pedal to the metal and try to get a 4-game sweep on the road against the divisional opponent. But you should definitely take 3 or 4. This team is not good. They are not what they were last year. I want to make that clear. This is not like the Rockies are what the White Sox were last year. Like, the White Sox have improved. And they have some young pieces that I actually really like. They have a couple in their infield that I really like. And honestly, a lot in the pitching department that I think maybe have some decent futures. But like in its current state, this is still a team that you should absolutely crush and that you should not have too much trouble with. Now, in one of those 2 TBD games, Sawyer Gibson-Long, it feels like, is going to start. Evan Petzold of the Freep hinted at that on Sunday, and that's really exciting. Sawyer Gibson-Long is a guy that really kind of broke onto the scene in September 2 seasons ago in 2024, and then unfortunately had the injury. Tommy John missed in 2023, September, missed all of 2024, and now is back here in 2025 and hopefully can shine again. The biggest thing with him is that changeup is, at least pre-Tommy John, was unbelievable. So I'm hoping that the stuff has carried over. He's been lighting it up down in his rehab assignments, so I'm assuming that it has. And I've watched, I want to say 1.5. I watched one of his full outings on a Tiger off day a couple of weeks ago. Then was kind of flipping back and forth between one of his other ones. So I haven't seen anything, but those are also filmed on like Nokia flip phones by some dude in center field. So like, we'll see what he looks like, but I think we have every reason to believe that he's still the dynamic pitcher he was before. And yeah. I mean, this is a guy that at full health could play Cater Montero out of being kind of this swing man / 6-man in the rotation going forward when the rotation is at full health, or even, even more, depending on what he looks like. So that'll be super exciting. And then it sounds like a bullpen game, kind of pitching chaos for the other TBD. Okay, solid weekend. The chance to look, again, you've already won 5 your last 6. If you take 3 of 4, even 4 of 4, you're talking about a legit, like, what is that? Like 11 of 12, 11 of 13. Like, that's be pretty darn cool. I just made those numbers up. It could be like 9 or, not that. Yeah, 9 is the number if you take 4. Anyway, Matt, thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow recapping game 1 against the South Side. Appreciate you all greatly for tuning in as always. After you make us your first listen, go make Locked On MLB Game Night your last listen of the night. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.